And I told you earlier on that we'll be having a special guest on the show this morning, and we have something very interesting to talk about, and that is the work-life balance. You welcome to the program, Ma.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
I'm happy to
and
be here.
but let's get to learn a bit about you, and I'll read this little profile just to let you in on who she is and how she's very crucial to what we're discussing today. So, Ivy Clem is a senior um, communications expert with NIM Foundation. She has worked as national communications expert with the United Nations Industrial Development Organization on the Nigerian Industrial Revolution Plan with over 18 years experience in the media. She is an alumna of the University of Salford, Manchester, UK, where she graduated with a distinction for her Masters of Science in Human Resource and Management and Development. Ivy Clem is an associate of the UK's Chartered Institute of Personnel Development, a member of the Manchester Industrial Relations Society. Ivy is passionate about leadership and is an advocate for more women in senior executive leadership role. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure
It's
to be
good
here.
to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you.
I have so much to ask. I have so much to talk about. As March 8th approaches, which is International Women's Day, there's so much to talk about with regards to that, and we are focusing on work-life balance for a career woman. And a career woman could even be a market woman because she's making money, she's bringing input, she's doing something to feed her family. Women all over the world at some point have had a cause to face one challenge or the other as a result of the fact that they're just women. The fact that you're a woman, you just face some challenge are just natural. And this is even more in Africa, where a woman is expected to just cook, clean, and take care of her family, and which is the core of an African woman's existence. It's just funny, but it's our culture, and we've come to live with it over a period of time. However, over time, women have advocated more involvement, more equality in almost all spheres of endeavor, and it seemed to have paid off slightly, just slightly. So hence the challenge that springs up is how to have a work-life balance. We will be talking about this amongst all the, very pressing issues. So, Ma, you have so many experience. You've worked in an environment that has so much pressure. You've been an executive in some organization, and you advocate for women. Most importantly, I'd like to know, how can a woman achieve work-life balance, especially as a mom and as a wife, as especially having to, man, because it's not woman, you man, having to man, that's doing the job of a man and manning maybe multiple streams of income.
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. I think it's very essential. The question you asked is, how do you manage and how do you cope? And the good thing is, I think I tick all the boxes that you mentioned earlier on. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I work. I've worked for 18 years. So work-life balance is very, essential and very key. I also like that the theme for this International Women's Day is actually balance is better, because I think they have seen the need that even though you keep on telling women that they should advance and they should go forth, there should be a balance in everything that they do. So work-life balance, to me, my own maybe very loose definition would be having to you work, but it still doesn't affect other areas of your life that you deem a priority. In this instance, family, friends, things that you need to do, advocacy that you need to do. So it's to find that balance. Well, what I think has helped me over the years is that the environment that has been around me, I know you mentioned earlier on that in the African context, it seems as if women are relegated or expected to be a certain kind of person. You cook, you clean, you do chores or whatever it is, and you're, well, I say the Madonna of the home. You're generally expected to be in the home and not to be, outside doing other things. But I think I grew up in a circumstance, or there began to be that enlightenment that women can be more than just moms, or just being in the home, or just being, and that I think was essential because of my upbringing. My mom worked, all my aunties worked, so I didn't know that the expectation of a woman was just to, be in the house, or just be in the house. So I've always had that concept that a woman ought to work and ought to go out there and be the best that she can be. And I have worked in that kind of environment. Now, you also mentioned something during the profile that you so graciously gave, that I have worked in a high-pressured environment, and that is true, because for the many years, I worked exclusively in the media, and as you know, our industry is one of the most high-pressured industries, especially for women, because the hours are long, the expectations are very high, and nobody's going to ask you, oh, but you have other things to do. Everyone just expects results. In fact, the parlance in our industry is that we're all gentlemen of the press. There's nothing like a woman, isn't it? Yeah. So it's a high-profile, high-pressured environment, but you're expected also to have a life outside of it. So one of the things that I have done that has helped in my own work-life balance is a lot of planning. I do not put one above the other. My work is important, my family is important, my priorities to my husband is important, my priorities to things that interest me are important, because I do advocacy for women in leadership. It's also important to me. So you're juggling like 3 or 4 hats, but what I tend to do that has helped in my own work-life balance so that nothing is out of whack is a lot of planning. And I think that if more women do that, it can be done. I know that if you watch television or you read the interviews, a lot of people say it's very difficult. It is difficult, but I think it can be done. If you plan it well and you have your priorities straight, I think it can be done. Because a woman should work, and she should also feel that she can achieve her best in every sphere that she decides that she wants to be in.
All right. That leads me to the next question, and that is, given that you've achieved this in such a short while, and you've been able to manage the work-life balance, you've been able to do that on your own. Can you give us some kind of tip, on how to be able to, achieve that? I'm sure some people are watching and like, oh, you're just saying it, and you're saying you can do this, you can plan. How do we do it? How can we achieve this plan?
Okay, I mean, all of us are given 24 hours within the day. Yeah. First and foremost, what is your priority? We had this interesting conversation at the organization where I work, which is NEEM Foundation, that works to provide psychosocial support to people in conflict areas. And we had this conversation, and it was really interesting. And we actually talked about work-life balance for people in general as an organization. And one of the things that I brought up was, is it at different stages? Is work-life balance a priority at different stages? Because I know for most young women, or for most people, once they enter into the workforce, I'm assuming after they finish university, perhaps maybe by like 2021 or 22, between 21 and 24, they enter into the work, and they just want to enter into the career and do their best and climb up a few ladders. They're not thinking about any other thing. Then after a while, perhaps they enter into relationships, perhaps they, get married, and all those pressures start coming as well. They start having children, and they have to start making the decisions on how am I going to do about childcare and child support, and also do the work. Some of them may make the decision that, okay, you know what, let me stop work and let me go home and let me do some other things. Let me just try and do that first before I come back. So the point I'm making is that a woman's life it's multifaceted. And when I talk about planning, you have to be aware that it's going to be a different ball game for you because there are other considerations that may come through. So it's best that you learn how to plan. What I do personally is I'm supposed to be at my office at a certain point in time during the day. When I am at the office, I devote my time and my essence and everything I'm supposed to do to the office and to the tasks that I'm giving, or to the tasks that I've given other people to do. The minute I leave my office, I have left my office. I move on to the next priority, which is my family. It is only in very essential cases where there's an emergency that I will return to what I'm doing for work. Now, other priorities take over after I finish my office hours, because my office hours where I work is between 8 to 5. I think that is sufficient time to be able to address whatever issues as pertaining to work. Once that is done, then I look at other priorities, which is my family. Once I'm home, I'm back home, my laptop is off, hopefully my phone can be off, or whatever it is, and I can focus on
Family.
the children, the family, homework, and other things. But I will know that, I do know that it may not be that clean cut for other people. But that works for me now at the stage I am in my life. But it's essential, first and foremost, to have the knowledge that you have the right to work, to have a family or relationships, and to do other things. Because it's not the job of your employer to give you that balance, necessarily. You have to be sensible to be able to say no to certain tasks that are not necessarily your tasks. You have to have the knowledge to know that, look, this is important to me, but other things are important to me. So first and foremost, the mindset that I should have a work-life balance. I shouldn't let everything pour into everything. I think that's the essential tip. You should know mentally that you have a right to work-life balance.
All right. There's a question, a pertinent question that I have, and that is: does being in a minority, does being a minority female in a particular career path change the way a woman should work? Does it?
When you say minority,
For instance, you have more male pilots. Of course, we're having more female pilots these days. Just recently, we started having, more female pilots. But actually, you still have more of the male pilots, more male engineers, more male, doctors. Of course, recently it has changed. But then, being in that kind of environment, does it affect the way a woman should work? Because sometimes you go to an organization and then some people are just, marginalizing you because you're actually a woman. I said it earlier that just the fact that you're a woman just brings about a lot of challenges. Some women now begin to put up this really stiff attitude. They are not natural caregivers anymore once they come to that kind of environment. What do you think about being in such environment? How do you think a woman should handle such, pressures?
Okay, that's a really good question, and I think it has like 2 or 3 different facets, but I'll just try to address as I can. First and foremost, when you go into a work environment, you shouldn't be regarded as a woman and a man. You shouldn't be gendered. You're just there to work. I think the mindset, a lot of women have the mindset that, I'm a woman, it's kind of difficult. When I was I never looked at myself as a woman working. I looked at myself as a qualified candidate to do a job. Now, the fact that I was a woman was secondary. And I noticed that in the places that I worked, if I had that mindset, I was never stopped. My promotions were never stalled because I was a woman, because I never looked at myself as, I'm a woman working. I'm a qualified candidate to do this job. And if I'm a qualified candidate to do this job, every benefit, everything that is required of me to do this job should be provided to me, whether I'm a woman or not. So I think that's one of the first concepts that women, when you're into the work environment, you're not a woman going to work, you're a qualified candidate going to do a job. Okay. Now, you also mentioned the fact that some women, they're a minority in certain jobs, such as pilots, such as maybe in the military, such as maybe in pilots, military. Jobs that traditionally, you mentioned engineers, traditionally people have said, tends towards the male folk, perhaps because of the time or whatever it is, whatever reasons that they give. But I think that concept is changing. And that has to do with the society. And that has to do with growth and understanding. That's another reason why we're so happy for days like the International Women's Day, and for the work that women before us have done to let people know that women, give us a chance, we can actually do these things. We're qualified candidates. There's nothing that is stopping us from excelling in these other areas. So I think that is changing. More women are beginning to say, okay, you know what, I want to be a pilot, I want to be an engineer, I want to be an architect. But I think more has to be done in the education sector and in the way the stereotypes, because these are stereotypical jobs for men, and the stereotypes to tell women that you can do anything, you can be anyone. And you know that when women do go into these fields, they excel.
Yeah, actually.
They do. They excel. Because there's that perception that because I'm a woman, I have to do a bit more. I'm not going to give anybody an excuse to not allow me to be the best that I can be. So you find that when we do get to those sorts of organizations, we excel. And the organizations have begun to realize that, which is why they're more open to bringing in women into those sorts of organizations. It profits every organization to have balance, because we all bring our own perspective, our own unique perspective, and our own strengths to the job. Diversity and having women in an organization only does better to build it. I'm very grateful that in the past, let me say 10, 15 years, there's been that added push towards telling organizations that you lose
when you don't have women.
When you don't have women, because you don't have representation from a perspective that you need. Most of them are providing products or services. How can you have services or provide products to a demographic that you don't understand and that you don't have their input?
Actually.
So it's good that organizations are beginning to realize this and beginning to say that, you know what, women are an important aspect of our target audience and the people that we actually service or provide products to, and we need their input. The good thing is that when women do go into these organizations, most of the times they excel.
Yeah. That brings me to another question. As someone who has been at the helm of affairs in an organization, how can you help? You know, how do you think you can help a work-life balance, not just for women now? Let's just include the men just a little bit. How do you think we can just have this balance? I'm looking at you as someone who is in charge of an organization now, and understand the women and understand the men as well. And, you know, tell me how you think an organization can achieve a work-life balance for its staff.
That's also a really, really good question. I have headed an organization, but in the current role that I am now, I'm the senior communications expert for the communications department in the organization where I work. What I can say is, like I mentioned, there's been a change in perception. Organizations have found it necessary right now to take work-life balance seriously. And just knowing that if you have staff that are more balanced or have their lives together, it affects productivity in a positive way. And that's what every organization wants. If your staff are stressed, if they're depressed, if they're anxious about what's going on in their lives, if they cannot juggle all the balls together, it's going to affect their work. It's going to show up somewhere, and chances are it will affect their work. Now, in the place that we work in conflict areas, such as in the Northeast, people that have been affected by insurgency. If your staff are not 100%, that is not you don't want staff that are not 100% dealing with people in conflict areas, providing psychosocial support for them. And most organizations are beginning to understand that if your staff are stressed, depressed, anxious, it doesn't help their bottom line, it doesn't help the organizations. So I would say that organizations have to work to ensure that their staff are achieving work-life balance. And that is providing an environment where the staff know that they don't have to outweigh the priority of one to the other. I'll give an instance. Where we work, we tell ourselves sometimes we have to be in the office very, very late hours, but the environment is conducive. You can talk to a psychologist. You can talk to people that can help you with what you're doing. It's a team spirit. There's team spirit where you can say, if I don't know what to do in this, I can go to someone, I can talk to them. So the organization has to provide an environment where people can be comfortable when they're at work, and if they do have to go home and to do other things, they should also be free to do that. But I believe that it has to be something. It's not just let's this work like. It has to be something that is mainstreamed into the organization, that we take this seriously. Told to the HR department, told to the various departments that this is a policy of the organization, that work-life balance is important for us. It's not just something that you say. It actually should be mainstreamed into the organization, that work-life balance is an important aspect because it affects the bottom line and it affects the productivity of staff.
Thank you so much. I've learned quite a number of things this morning, and I just want you, as we celebrate International Women's Day tomorrow, and we are just allowing women to understand their roles in the society and how important they are and other things that they can do, to better their life. I want you to just give one or two words to every woman who is watching. Tell them one or two things you think they should know. Considering that the theme for this year is balance is better. So I think you should, just tell us one or two things you think a woman should know.
Okay, first and foremost, as I mentioned earlier on, you're a qualified candidate in your life, in your personal life, and in your work life. There are a lot of things that women face on a day-to-day basis, a lot of decisions that we have to make, and a lot of sacrifices that we have to make you mentioned earlier on the nurturing aspect of us. But the main thing is that you have to know that you're a qualified candidate to be able to deal with all the challenges that you face. That's the first thing. The second thing about balance is better. It is important, imperative for organizations to know that the more women they have as members of their work staff, the better that organization is deemed to be. And it just gives them a greater input into the people that they're serving in terms of products and in terms of services. So we are qualified candidates to every area of our life, and we should hold our head up high. And as we celebrate International Women's Day tomorrow, balance is better. I think every woman should have a crown on her head and feel worthy. I know that she's a qualified candidate. She's not a secondary person at all. She's a qualified candidate in every area of her life.
All right, you heard it. You are a qualified candidate, and you deserve everything good. You can be anything you want to be. You can participate. You can make all the plans and still achieve all that you want to achieve. It's a matter of planning. Right.
It's a matter of planning.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on Hello Africa today. And I believe a lot of African women watching you today have learned a thing.